Children, and welcome. This video is for chapter Winds, Storms and Cyclones for class 7. Subject is science and this is part 2. So in the part 1 video, we had started with the introduction to the chapter Storms, Winds and Cyclones. We had seen how air exerts pressure, what is the relationship between wind and pressure, and how air expands on heating. In this part, we will see how these concepts play a part in generation of wind currents, how are thunderstorms and cyclones caused, the destruction that's caused by them, and what are the safety measures. In the next part, we will answer some questions related to the chapter. Generation of wind currents. Wind currents are generated due to uneven heating on the earth. First, we'll see uneven heating between equator and poles. So we know that the area near the equator, this gets maximum heat from the sun. So because it gets maximum heat, the air in these regions get warm as compared to these belts, this belt, both on the either sides of the equator and this belt. So these are 0 to 30 degree latitudes. So the cooler air from these regions in this 0 to 30 degree latitude belt on either side of the equator would move in, and the winds would blow from north and from the south towards the equator. Also, we know that polar region, the poles are very cold. So the air is colder there than this region, which is this 60 degree latitude. So the warm air at these latitudes, it rises up, and the cold wind from the polar region rushes in to takes its place. So in this way, wind circulation, it gets set up from the poles to the warmer latitudes. Now these winds, these do not blow directly from north to south because Earth is rotating. Uneven heating of land and water. So in summer near the equator, the land warms up faster, and most of the time the temperature of land is higher than that of the water in the oceans. Now because of this higher temperature, the air over the land gets heated and rises, and the winds from the ocean, it flows towards the land. These are called as monsoon winds. So in this picture, we can see that uneven heating of land, and especially near the Rajasthan desert. This generates monsoon winds from the southwest direction, and this happens in summer. Now, when these winds are passing over the Indian Ocean, they pick up water which brings rains in summers. This is called as monsoon rains. In winter, the direction of the wind flow, it gets reversed. It flows from the land to the ocean. So here, like we see, uneven heating of land and water. In the winter, this would generate winds from the northwest colder side, and this doesn't carry much water. So there's very little water, and hence it brings very less amount of rain in winter. Now we know that clouds bring rain and happiness. A lot of farmers in our countries, majority of the farmers in our countries, they depend mainly on rain for their farming and harvests. But too much of rain, it often creates problems also, which we'll see on further slides. Now we are going to see how thunderstorms are generated. Thunderstorms develop in hot, humid tropical areas. So as the temperature rises, it produces strong upward rising winds. As the temperature rises, the wind rises up like this. Now as these winds go up, they carry water droplet upwards, and when it goes up, they freeze and fall down again. Now this swift movement of the falling of water droplets along with the rising air creates lightning and sound. This is called as thunderstorm. On this slide, we learn how does a thunderstorm become a cyclone. Before cloud formation, water takes up heat from the atmosphere and changes into vapor. When these vapors they change back to liquid form as raindrops, heat is released to the atmosphere. Now this heat which is released to the atmosphere, it warms the air around, and the air would rise, causing a drop in the pressure. Because of this, more air rushes to the center of the storm. And this cycle keeps on repeating again and again. Finally, it leads to the formation of a very low pressure system, which has very high speed winds revolving around it. It is this weather condition which we call as cyclone. So these are a couple of images of the cyclone. On the next slide, we are going to learn about the structure of a cyclone. Structure of a cyclone. So center of the cyclone is the calm area known as eye. So this area, this is calm and called as eye. A large cyclone, it's a very violent rotating mass of air in the atmosphere, and it is as high as 10 to 15 kilometers. And the diameter of the eye, it is around 10 to 30 kilometers. So we can understand how high and how big a cyclone would be. Now this region, this doesn't have any clouds. It's a cloud-free region with very light winds. But around this calm eye, there is a cloud region of about 150 kilometer in size, and it has very high winds, 150 to 250 kilometer per hour, and it has thick clouds and heavy rains. So with wind speeds this high, we can imagine how much destruction can a cyclone cause. Now away from this region, the wind speed gradually decreases. So the formation of a cyclone, it's a very complex process. Destruction caused by cyclone. Cyclones can be very destructive. Strong winds, they push water towards the shore, even from hundreds of kilometers away. And these are the first indication that a cyclone is approaching. The water waves produced by the winds are very powerful. The low pressure in the eye, it lifts water surface from the center, and it can be as high as 3 to 12 meters. Sometimes it appears like a water wall is moving towards the shore, and as a result of that, seawater enters the low-lying coastal areas, which causes severe loss of life and property. It also reduces the fertility of the soil. Along with this, because there are continuous heavy rainfall, it further worsens the flood situation. Also, it is accompanied by the high-speed winds, which causes damage to houses, your telephone and your communication systems, trees gets uprooted, and it causes tremendous loss of life and property. Now, what is a tornado? In our country, these tornadoes are not very frequent. So tornado, it is a dark funnel-shaped cloud which looks like reaching from the sky to the ground. So it looks something like this. Most of the tornadoes are weak, but a violent tornado, it can travel at a speed of 300 km per hour, and it causes a lot of destruction to whatever comes in its ways. and tornadoes may form within the cyclones. Now in our country, the whole coastline is vulnerable to cyclones, and this is particularly on the east coast. West coast is less vulnerable, both in terms of intensity and frequency of the cyclones. So we are going to learn about some of the safety measures for cyclones and thunderstorms. So a cyclone forecast and warning service is very much essential for cyclones. Also, construction of cyclone shelters in these cyclone prone areas and administrative arrangements for moving people to the safer areas. Also, people should not ignore the warnings which are issued by the meteorological department through various channels like TV, radio or newspapers. Also, we should make necessary arrangements to shift the essential goods or domestic animals or vehicles to safe places. Also, we should avoid driving on roads where flooding might occur. Advanced technology like satellites and radars, these predict and issue cyclone alerts or cyclone watches almost like 48 hours in advance of a storm, or in case of a cyclone of 24 hours in advance. So these are some of the safety measures that are there in place in the event a cyclone or any severe thunderstorm comes. So with this, we come to the end of this video. In the next video, which would be the third part, we would solve questions pertaining to this particular chapter. Thank you.